The Frederick II is the oldest secular university, leading academic institution in Naples and one of the most important in Italy and Europe because it was created by emperor. Was founded in 1224, and the main reasons that led the emperor to the building of the studium were two. First of all, exclusive training of administrative and bureaucratic curia regis, the ruling class of the kingdom, and then the preparation of lawyers that would help the ruler of the state structure and the definition and execution of the laws. Secondly, to facilitate their subject and cultural education, avoiding their unnecessary and expensive trips abroad. For the organization of the fair, we engaged the two eminent jurists from Campania, Pier delle Vigne and Taddeo from Sessa. Initially, the studies were directed to the right, liberal arts, medicine, and theology. The latter, compared to other materials, were taught at religious sites, particularly in the convent of San Domenico Maggiore. During the French decade, there were works of modernization in the cultural field, and the university was divided into five faculties: humanities, mathematics, and physics, medicine, law, and theology. Today, Federico II spans a wide range of disciplines. Today, the students try to bring up the name, the meaning, and the concept of human dignity with the message of solidarity in honor of the recent demonstration against violence, so that you understand the horrors of humanity. Do not go unnoticed, never. Not even in this age of confusion and indifference.
Welcome to Orange and the World and the Violence Against Women and Girls in the Department of Political Science of Frederick II University of Naples.
Along the street, crossing Nigeria State, came so fast and active National Agency for the Prevention of Trafficking in Person. Vehicle to the decadent building where over 30 women give birth to child designed to disappear. In the best of case comes into illegal adoption. Nigeria Baby Factory show a terrific scenario over a state where thousands of women were trafficked over Europe. Women are ashamed for this child born not in marriage, where their family and traffickers enrich themselves in a ruined society where human trafficking is the third crime for importance and women trafficking is first. United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, count over 6 million Nigerian women sent in Europe to prostitute themselves. This makes affairs about 2,028 million of dollars a year. Women decide are girls from town and village that are psychological slave with voodoo. Some report from 2040 talks about is growing the numbers of women that report to the authority their situation.
You have unfortunately to observe that this dramatic issue is very much heard but not that considered in today's world. How many, for example, knew that in 2005 has been celebrated the International Day Against Slavery in all its forms: forced labor, child labor, prostitution, sex tourism, trafficking in women for sexual purposes, and how about its abolition? This issue definitely violates human rights, the fundamental right to life, to health, to not suffer violences, to have choices in life. The woman came from a man's rim, not from his head to be superior, not from his feet to be worked on, but from his side to be equal, under the arm to be protected, and next to the heart to be loved.
Immigration and the welcome to refuse women are related things. Women migrate because they lack their individual freedoms. The journey is full of horror and tragedies that these brave women must face, often carrying their wounds, the fruit of this horror, hoping find a better life condition.
Often the horror continues even beyond the shores of devastated homelands in the CIE, where hope and discontent living in symbiosis. These are the emotions that these strong women bring with them, giving great example to all humanity about dedication and courage that is the people face to make a respectable lifestyle for them and the fruit of that love lost beyond that shores.
Nowadays, Amnesty International is talking about an important theme in international relationships. It's talking about violence against girls and women. Little girls who are about 8 years old should play with their friends, should go to school, should dream about what they'll do in the future. But it isn't so, because this war against this violence is involved in so many countries, for example in Iraq, in Iran, in India, in Bangladesh, and for example also in China and Japan. So if we want to change this situation, this actual situation who is distracting this world, we can through the knowledge try to understand and try to change a part of this actual story. This is an injustice for all these little girls that cannot live a normal and usual life.
They are destined to leave the school. Their childhood's world made of games and dreams. They must change these values and become illiterate, soldiers and slaves. On the other hand, their precocious sexual activities is the cause of irreparable and physical damage. During the birth, hundreds of they give birth to dead babies. Precocious marriage is seen as a good family's investment that often say nothing about conflict and create alliance. Thanks to these marriages, families can settle their debts. According to UNICEF, every year are involved children in the South and North Africa, Asia and all around South America and also in Europe.
According to an article in Health and Human Rights Journal, the issue of violence against women still remains one of the most pervasive forms of human rights violations worldwide. In fact, rapes, abuses, and violence against women often traumatize their victims. There are two kinds of reaction that either deal with a depressive dimension or with a delirious one.
However, all these women manifest anxiety symptoms, feelings of guilt, shame, self-denigration, avoidance behaviors, sense of guilt, fears and phobias related to trauma, reaction of anger and aggression, and sense of loss. For this reason, many of them renounce to denounce their aggressors. Instead, many others find help in first aid and assistance centers that play a fundamental role in the process that led women to overcome their trauma.
There is a gender violence even more hushed and silent, even more covered by family relationship, unseen by the social services. The victims are the elderly women. Violence against the elderly women is presented as something elusive and largely hidden, a typical phenomenon iceberg. But many indicators show how widespread and growing. Nowadays, there are no national statistics of violence against older women that investigate the age group above 17 years old. This remains a social affair.
According to research by the Federal Ministry for Labor, the cases of violence that are treated more are economic exploitation, such as misappropriation of money or object, fraud, hereditary, followed by cases of serious offences, insult and threats. Cases of administration of harmful drugs and abandonment were less frequent. In the first place are mentioned ill treatment and economic damage. The consequences of violence is expressed especially on the psychic and emotional. Married people and people with a health problem were often victims of violence.
A society in which there are not forms of respect and principles, education must be a crucial tool to help the society to move forward. We have lost respect for the others and to the fairer sex, forgetting the small gestures of cavalry observed by our grandparents and parents. Education is no longer taught in the domestic walls, and the society cannot transmit values strong enough to influence people because we are constantly bombarded with messages without any moral principles that damaged our conscience. Without morals, without principles, and without healthy education, we wander in darkness, making violent acts against others. A man who beats a woman is a man with no morals.
The lack of values and morality leads to sociological regression that bring to the lack of respect by the man against the woman. The lack of respect for a woman very easily leads to different types of violence: physical, economic, sexual, psychological, and cybernetica. Violence against women is never justified. The history of the last 20 years is full of stories of poor women mistreated by violent men. Technology has also made it easier for small men with no dignity to offend the female figure. There are frequent cases of young women damaged by groups of young men behind the screen of a smartphone, feeling strong to deride and attack them.
Sexual violence against women is a crime, a problem linked to the issue of human rights and gender. Especially women and children are involved in order to sow terror, hatred, infidelity and suffering. Just think that last year more than 8,000 women were raped in the Democratic Republic of Congo during conflicts between factions. Obviously, such abuses do not occur only in this place, but it is an issue that affects most parts of the world, such as Bosnia, Liberia, Nigeria, and also by militias of ISIS in all its territories controlled by the Caliphate.
Stop violence and reprise is in situations of conflict and post-conflict requires urgent action at the international level, as is much more urgent today. Women, men and children fleeing war, victims of all kinds and violence, through the Mediterranean to seek asylum in Europe. So our commitment is to face the reality and deal within order to a better world and the recognition of human rights across the planet.
In a society advanced only from the technological point of view, morality and good principles have been overlooked. The man's attitude towards women has remained unchanged and regressed during these 20 years.
The task of parents and educational institutions is to sensitize the child to these delicate subjects. The man, however, should be urged to remember that woman is a human being and not an object.
Among the episodes of violence against women, the ones that happen into the domestic worlds are probably the most common and dangerous. Statistics show us how easy it is for a woman to become a victim of the man she married. More than 1 in 5 women declare to have suffered physical and sexual violence by their partner. Almost half of the women have been exposed to psychological violence and many times to economic deprivation. Those things are caused by the unacceptable way some men see their partner, considering their wife as something under their private property. This kind of episodes is also the most hidden, because just a little part of the domestic abuses are denounced. A dangerous phenomenon also because it involves the children of the couple that grow up learning violence as a normal way to live a relationship.
Domestic violence is defined as any form of physical, sociological, or sexual violence, both between partners or family or affective relationship. A third of women worldwide are victims of domestic violence, sociological and or physical. It is one of the major causes of death in the world. A woman subjected to gender-based violence is a woman who eventually vanishes. She no longer deals with her own mind. She is a woman forced to always say yes, to bow her head. The United Nations General Assembly designated November on 25th as the International Day for Elimination Violence Against Women. This problem can be addressed starting imparting a good education to young people in their respect the others, and especially those who are closest to us and show increased fragility.
About the discussion of sanitation, the situation is very delicate. When we talk about violence against women, we also refer to physical violence. The lack of sanitary in some cities of the world involved the people to not washing, and so the birth of some disease easily transmitted sexually, often in case of rape. But there are also other situations. In Nairobi, capital of Kenya, women live a discomfort situation because they fear sexual violence and often they have to leave their houses to reach public toilets because not all the world has private toilets. The world, therefore, must be more sensitive to issues even slightly more marginal.
Modern society, even if it is developed, shows a lot of problems. Nowadays, it is very easy to see a very young girl that wore herself. In some countries, girls who sell love touch the teenage years. Violence against young women is mainly related to the business of the body. Eastern Europe and Africa are the biggest exporters. Those girls are deluded by the fact that they can change their life for the better. Instead, they find a different reality, often worse than the past.
The reality of women in prison is painful and depressing. Deprived of any kind of humanity, these women face a reality of invisibility and social marginality. Many female prisoners came from difficult situations, forced into an inhuman lifestyle, without protection or there behind women. They are forced to live under extreme conditions in this place where the concept of femininity, privacy and maternity are a distant memory. The discomfort that did not find answer out of prison and to meet up with incompetence caused by the detention itself.
Female genital mutilation is the ritual removal of the external female genitalia. It is practiced in 26 countries all around the world, especially in Africa, where we find the highest rates in Somalia and Egypt. The widespread type of mutilation is the so-called infibulation, also known as pharaonic circumcision, because of its origin dating back to the ancient Egypt. The vast majority of people thinks that the ritual comes from religion, but it's not completely true. As a matter of fact, Islam, the prevalent religion in these countries, does not talk about this at all. The most accredited idea is that infibulation is strongly linked to the local culture and tradition.
There are strong consequences for women. Psychal and psychological. Female circumcision is a painful and displayed with unsafe instrument and inadequate. Also, an infibulated woman cannot have a sex until the infibulation, that is performed directly by the groom before the consummation of the marriage. The relationships become difficult, often arise cystitis, urinary retention, and vaginal infection. Even a simple childbirth became a problem. How about psychological effect? The women without infibulation is removed from the company. The numbers show that women also out of central and social continue to keep this tradition. We got some victories, but the victims in the world are still too many, and you need to fight every day.
The Department of Political Science of the University Federico II of Naples is involved very much in the topic of human rights. In this department, many colleagues study human rights from historical, philosophical, sociological, juridical, and also economical perspective. So we can say that human rights is in the core of our activity, either in the activity of formation of new generation, either in the activity of research. Human rights and human situation in Italy and especially in the south of Italy and in the world is an important challenge of this time. So I can say that our department will realize in the future many other activities on this topic. For example, the Week on the Human Right, in which in the next year we want to give a specific space on the situation of women human rights.